Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all here in this session at TNV Academy. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today's webinar, Mr. Ajay Bajpai. In this webinar today, Mr. Ajay Bajpai will discuss about Clause 8.2, which is Emergency Preparedness and Response as per ISO 14001 and 45001. Our distinguished speaker, Mr. Ajay Bajpai, has done his bachelor's in engineering in metallurgy stream. He is also a lead auditor in ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, 37001, 22000, 27001, 13485, 22301 and 50001 standards respectively. He has an industrial experience of around 38 plus years in field of manufacturing, quality control, quality assurance, design services and technical testing. He has been imparting training to a number of organizations, entrepreneurs and individuals on various topics related to ISO terminologies and their certification and implementation. It was just a brief introduction of our guest speaker today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ajay Bajpai. I may request Mr. Ajay Bajpai now to please start the session and take over.
Thank you, Apur. Today we are on a very interesting subject on emergency preparedness. Generally, when we talk into the ISO circle and the segments and the client attempting for these standards, they will be talking of a limited activity called mock drill, mock drill. But this is not only that, and there are a lot more to do into this with several elements which we will understand slowly. Unfortunately, globally, the concern has been not that much toward this very particular activity and clause and the function of the organization. Particularly, I would say many of the developing countries, they have been facing a lot of accidents, incidences, which finally lead to a lot of loss of human life, property, energy, environment, and create unsafe conditions. I mean, daily we keep on hearing in some or the other news channel that this jungle went into the fire, this building ran into fire, this lift, people got stuck, and there has been so many casualties and accidents. Even many of the hospitals and theaters, cinema ghars have gone into the situation of these kind of various accidents. So when we talk of this thing, this is not only limited to fire accidents or it is only not limited to the short circuit accident. There is a lot more to do it. That is what we need to understand in today's discussion. So in short, I will be calling it EPR. This is very close to my heart because this subject I have been practicing for last couple of years with my senior and junior auditors, and we have been able to support the industry a lot on this. Just to give you an example, we were into an audit once. It was a board audit going on. We were into a plywood industry, which is prone to fire. You all know. So suddenly, just before the lunch hour, we heard a lot of noise. It's okay. We continued with our auditing because our assessment was also going on. So we didn't want to disturb anybody in the auditing team also. But once we took break for the lunch, I asked from the director of the company, what was that noise? There was noise, and then suddenly everything was controlled. What was that? So he said, "Sir, it is very interesting. We have another, unit of plywood manufacturing with just with the sidewall of this unit. When we started implementing ISO 14,000 and 45,000 into our organization in this main unit where you are auditing today, the next unit also we started following the same system and same standard. So there was a fire, but since we had done such a good practice systematically, we could take care of this and we have control it in just few seconds. So we are thankful to this beautiful system of emergency preparedness, which has made our organizational team so much capable and confident that they did not disturb me. I did not disturb the audit, and everything has gone smooth. So this is the concept on which our type of auditors and trainers have been working for last couple of decades, and we have been trying to support the industry, the clients, the trainers, and the auditors to work upon this clause and function so that the entire emergency situations which are existing in the globe anywhere can be controlled. So this has a lot of links with the both the standards, particularly environment and health and safety. So I have taken it as a common clause. There are some small differences in the requirements, but basic concept is that it is linked to all these standards, and also when we are going for IMS purpose, and when initial review and initial planning for the implementation is done. Today we know many of the companies are going for 9, 14, 45 together. So when we talk of IMS, it is more than two standards, but this is also applicable to food safety standard, FSMS 22000. However, the concept there are a little different. We will discuss it when we discuss the FSMS part of emergency preparedness. It is also linked with again with the 6.1 hazard needs to be understood and then controlled, and then whatever are the potential emergency situations, they are again getting linked to the risk, opportunity, and ultimately they boil down to the tracking and following the objectives, which should be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and target oriented. So we always talk of these terms because ultimately through them only we achieve our objective, and it is very much linked to the safety of human life. Human life is very precious. Developing countries, underdeveloping countries also have now started understanding that in last couple of years. So we are, as auditor trainers, we are very happy and satisfied that this clause is being conceptually understood by the masses now, and it is also very much related with the various regulations. Every state, every country has got their own health and safety regulation, environment protection act. Ultimately they are aiming to control the human life, property. So for this, emergency preparedness is one of the key areas of actions. Let's go to what are we looking at ultimately when we are attempting to address this clause and this requirement. Our concepts of the team should be clear. So first phase is the training of the team, training of the entire team of the organization. During the audit, sometimes we have seen into the situations where a few of the operator workers, they are not aware, of the process, the steps they need to be followed when any emergency situation is created into the organization, or it comes as a some of the errors being happening by mistake of individuals, or by mistake of the machines, or by fault into the operating system, but we need to control that. So that is the one of the objective. Also give assurance that yes, health safety and environment management systems are being achieved by the organization when we are implementing this system. Okay, and also finally the global requirements, the ILO, the International Labour Organization, the Factory Acts, the statutory and regulatory requirements, all those are also met through with the clause 8.2 emergency preparedness and response. Then what happens? We need to control the emergency situation. Emergency situations will always be there. I mean, we cannot say that there will be no emergency situations into our organizations. They are into office situations, they are into a school, they are into a hospital. Even a small marketing office can have an emergency situation. There can be a short circuit. Somebody can have a fall from the stairs. Somebody can hit the table chair which has got corners. The computer may have a short circuit, electric point may have a short circuit, AC may have a problem, the heater may have a problem in the winters. So all these situations can be there into small organizations, and we have to control and learn from the experience of the accident which have taken place, and also we have to learn from the near miss accident. Near miss is something which we all senior trainers and auditors respect a lot, because if we can control the and understand the near miss accidents, then we can take action on the potential causes of the emergency situation, and further controls can be implemented, and the mitigation happens, means the reduction and prevention. The next line says prevent or reduce. So our ultimate objective is what? To prevent and try to reduce the undesired effects on global and safety environment. So health and safety globally needs to be controlled. Accidents, incidents, near miss needs to be reduced, and environment protection should be taken the lead into the this direction, and we should go on with a positive result. Yes, accidents are reducing, environment protection is increasing, our test results are getting better, our expenses onto these efforts are being reduced. So these are the desired results when we are going to implement 8.2 into our any type of organization. Some are sometimes the team of the organization think we are so big or so small. Emergency situation can be anywhere and everywhere. That should be the concept when we are going to begin the implementation of the system. So that's the concept. Now we go to the planning part of it. So we need to get into a planning activity after initial training is done. So we need to have emergency situation response prepared. First aid needs to be brought into the picture. Training needs to be done for the planned response. Whenever emergency situation takes place, how we are going to react to it, means what kind of response we are going to take. Periodically testing, that is what most of the masses understand periodical testing as a mock drills, means whatever emergency system, procedure, work instruction, methods we have documented and implemented, that needs to be tested. That depend, the testing periodicity of frequency depends upon organization to organization, type of situation they had in past, what is the experience of their team, what kind of production process they are. If they are into a situation where they are handling a lot of papers, woods, chemicals, then their emergency preparedness and periodicity may be different. For an organization where there is least use of electricity, minimum usage of this fireborne material, then their testing and different. And of course, depending upon incident, the accident they had, the frequency decided. And then we go into the performance evaluation of our emergency preparedness plans. And based upon the results, we revise plans and response, and we plan our testing accordingly. So emergency situations, as we go on implementing into the organization, they keep on changing with experience. The situation change, the plants needs to be gets more and more trained. They have done many of the mock drills, they have done a lot of exercises, a lot of research by themselves and by the statutory and monitor regulatory board, by the customers also. They come, they do the mock drills. When we auditors go for stage one audits, or when we go for initial meetings, we have discussions, and by virtue of sharing the information and knowledge, the plans arise. These plans should be communicated adequately. You know, who is responsible for what? Most of the organization will have a safety team, they will have a EPR team, they will have a mock drill team, they will have large organizations have, you know, departments who will be totally into control the moment any emergency situation comes. So, so the concept here is that they should know what they are supposed to do. When some emergency situation comes, one or two sirens or one or two whistles are, you know, they are, you can hear those things. So who is going to do that? No panics, no actions. Then what is your duty? Everyone is supposed to behave in a particular way when he observes or when he hears the situation and sound of a emergency horn or emergency warning or the lights or whatever is the method of organization's indications. So they should do what they are supposed to do. No panic, no running here and there, unless you are supposed to do that. So every person is trained on their duty in different kind of emergency situation, and they should behave the way they have been uh, defined, and the responsibility is very very clear. Firefighter will do this, others will observe. Team A will be activated in 1 minute, team B will get activated in 3 minutes, plan A comes into picture after 5 minutes. So all these things are very well documented into the organization, and they are communicated so that we can see that they are behaving the way they are desired. So this behavior pattern is very very important in case of emergency situation. Many of the accidents have been analyzed, and we practically have seen and observed and seen and verified the records that it is the behavior which plays a very very crucial role in case of emergency situation. Things which could have been controlled without much panic been made unnecessarily furious, and accidents have become much more loss taking and loss going than what it should have been. So the communication also is required when we have a lot of visitors coming into the organization. They do not know how to behave in the organization in case of emergency situation. So there's a needs of communication training. Organizations have got different kinds of ways of communication. Few organizations have got videos. You have got visitors cards, visitors policy, emergency policy card, and how to behave. So when these visitors, government authorities, and even suppliers, contractors, even third-party auditors, consultants, when they are visiting the organization, they should be made aware of how to behave in case of emergency situations in the organization, and the local community, nearby organizations. They should all be communicated well, so that there is no panic created throughout the surroundings. Also, when something goes wrong. Okay. And also we have to see how the relevant parties are with respect to our organization, how the interested parties are available, how we can involve them. Lot of suggestions, lot of roles, lot of key activities are played a critical role where emergency situations come by the interested parties. I have seen particularly into when we were conducting audit, situation has been created, and one of the visitors by chance was a doctor. I saw it myself personally, and he took care of the some of the medical requirement when emergency situation have taken place. So making aware, creating aware into interested parties is again a very very important factor, and we need to understand what are their capabilities, how we can involve them to benefit the entire emergency situation. Okay, so now we go for the action plan. Once we are ready with the training, we are ready with the documentation, we are ready with the procedures, then they are all linked to what? EPR, emergency preparedness response, is related to again all activity of the 14,000 and 45,001 standard requirements of HERA. The HERA chart, aspect, impact, risk and opportunity, policy and objectives. Our ultimate goal is to see that our policies are met with, our objectives are going in the positive direction, improvements are coming. Aspect, impact analysis is moving in a positive direction, scores are reduced, risk and opportunities are going into a direction where opportunities are coming more and more, risk level is going down. So all this is very much linked to the emergency preparedness, and we cannot be moving standalone into most of the clauses of 14,001 and 45,001, and particularly When we are going for IMS situation, these all these activities, these clauses, sub clauses are very much linked, and overall improvement comes when we can move them along in totality and don't look into any requirement, any clause into isolation. Okay. Next we go for the monitoring of all the processes. Now all the processes are set, they have been documented well. Team is trained, workers and operators know what are the safety requirement and how important is the safety of human life and environment. So the team starts monitoring the processes and they see that implementation is going on as documented, as required, and as per the desired result of the organization. We keep on doing the analysis of unsafe conditions and processes as a continual improvement process. Again, using the principles I always say, and our type of auditors trainers always use the words, the management principles and the principles like PDCA, which are always used to analyze and see that possible opportunities are coming, and finally the improvement in EPR, emergency preparedness, is coming. Accidents are reducing, near miss are reducing, and things are going in a well defined direction. And these process charts are being developed continuously, they are updated continuously. We always say don't leave the matrix, aspect, impact charts, objective, risk and opportunity where they were. So as and when the emergency situations changes, the things improve or deteriorate, whatever can be the condition when we are into a practical working situation, we need to redevelop the charts and see that we are updating them on a continuous process. Now we have implemented the actions. So we go further into implementation. So we are running the various processes. Means the commonly used word, as I said in the beginning, the mock drills are being conducted. It is not only the fire mock drill, it is not only the short circuit mock drill, it is not only the staircases being wrong mock drill, it is not only the outflow of the chemical, which is the mock drill. We have to look into the entire processes of the organization. Into a third party auditing, we observed that some standard charts, some standard processes are implemented, but they are not good to get the real benefits of the 8.2 clause, the emergency situations control. You know, the consultants, the trainers, the in-house team of the organization needs to understand what can be the situations which can lead to emergency in practice, in practical, with respect to their office conditions, with respect to their manufacturing process, with respect to their loading and unloading of the material, with respect to the fumes and smoke generated, with respect to the behavior of their organizational team. Small things are important in the organization, but we need to do a practical exercise. We always say go to the spot, do gamba, reach the site, study what emergency situations can be there, what wrong can go in this machine, what wrong can go when we are traveling into the site of the manufacturing activity, when steel is being manufactured or welding is being done, or these smoke detectors are working or not working. So we have to practically see. We can utilize the existing processes available on various websites and various documentation, but ensure that the organization individual system should be working around their own office situation, their own production situation, their assembly situation. Most of the time standard practices do not work, they do not get the desired results. Results will come out when we do actual on-site exercise, when we do IER, when we do Canva, when we do various kind of exercise on the site, and then we work out with actual plans. So now the drills are being done. Mock drills are being done into the organization. Records are being prepared. But there is a need to understand the effectiveness of the drills. What was the head count? How much time the team has taken to reach the spot? What was the response of the safety team? How the safety EMR, MR, and how the safety drivers, safety leaders, different terms are being used today, have behaved. How the organization team has behaved. How many persons have left behind? They have not been able to hear the siren. Why? All this needs to be undergo the effectiveness study of the, and the records needs to be verified practically, not going through just yes, point 2, point 3, point 5 have been met. We need to go in a systematic way to understand the effectiveness of the mock drills which we have done. And then we definitely get some points into our hands, and we need to update the data in EPR. When we do actual practical exercise of the effectiveness monitoring of the drills, we get into updation of the various charts. They will be updated automatically, because when we go into the root cause, when we go into the depth of the effectiveness of the drills, we are naturally able to update all these our action oriented point like objective, aspect, impact, HERA chart, risk and opportunity chart. They are updated automatically, and we see that yes, we are getting more and more into a controlled situation. Then conduct the accurate and precise calculations after implementation. We all always say that don't go by feeling, don't go by, oh yeah, it was a very good drill. I could see many people have reached the spot. I could see most of them must have heard the siren, because now we have increased the intensity of it. Now the sound level is more or less. No, that's not the right way. We should go for the actual calculation. How this was the dB value, 75 dB, the micron levels, the uh, fumes calculation, the smoke detection, how many places it has really worked, how many places it had not worked. We had attendance of 100 at that particular time of 10:30 a.m. So 90 of them have gathered a particular spot or spots as per our plan. Where the 10% have gone? What was the problem with 10% of the staff or the team in the organization? So when we do the real calculation, we do the calculation of the head count, we calculate the time management, we calculate the response time, we calculate the response method. We finally, as I said, we see the most important thing, the behavior of the organizational team. Then we get the actual data in front of us, and then what we do, we review the data and facts. And facts here will be giving us the direction, how many working hours have been lost, you know, uh, due to the accidents or near miss accidents, or by our improper management plans of loading, unloading, material movement, behavior of the team, behavior of the safety team, behavior of the organization team. Sometimes we have seen in organization, we particularly when we go for third party auditing, at least I have done it number of times that I have asked for actual drill to be done in India also, globally also. I have pressed the button, red button, and I observed everything practically. And in some organization, it was extremely good. Some organization came at an average result. Some organizations actually were found poor when we actually do a mock drill. Sometimes we inform them, sometimes we don't inform them. It depends upon the auditing technology, methods, and experience of auditor to auditor, and depending upon the team of auditors you have and the organization which you have understood in the initial meetings and the stage 1 and now you are stage 2, or into surveillance audits. So we have facts and figures in front of us. We know how much money has been lost in last 6 months, how many working hours because of the minor, major, or serious injuries. That depends upon the classification of the organization. There are different ways and means the organization will define the accidents, the losses, the injuries, and based upon that, the money is calculated because the management is looking into finally the money, the paisa, the dollars, how much have been earned and how much have been lost because of safe or unsafe condition. Depending upon that, the management will take further actions and our emergency preparedness will really get a positive direction. So now we have implemented the system. The emergency preparedness is well prepared into the organization. Okay. So now we need to study these various charts. Depending upon the organization size, we may have one chart or 10 or 100 charts. Multi-locational organization employing thousands of employees. I have audited the companies where there were 10 to 12 units. We have spent uh, weeks doing the audits of the organization, and we have always seen the best or results have come when the small groups, cross-functional teams have been working into implementation of 8.2 emergency preparedness because there are a lot of technicalities involved into emergency preparedness. We need to have a safety team, we need to have maintenance team, we need to involve design team, we need to involve the statutory and regulatory requirements. So we need the marketing links, marketing contacts, we need the HR involved. So unless we involve all these cross-functional team and variety of team members, variations of inputs coming from even the smallest, the setup of the organization, even the smallest worker, peon, we have seen gives very good suggestions in place of emergency preparedness because he is the person who is suffering at the bottom line. So he gives the best suggestions. So we always see involve all of them. Now we have the data. So we need to monitor the data by various techniques and understand what is the direction, uh, in which area the accidents or near miss or incidences are increasing or reducing, which area the expenses are increasing, which area the fighters are behaving properly or not, which type of fire extinguishers are being more useful into our organization, which first aid techniques or which first aid techniques has been more expensive, which are less expensive, is in-house training is better or outside training of the first aid or firefighter is more beneficial. All this needs to be studied by analysis of the data. Data collection is good, but analysis of data is the one which will give us the real benefits of the emergency preparedness. Then how improvement comes finally, we always believe by conducting effective internal audit. And audit is again done by qualified and trained auditors. And particularly when we are having a situation of internal audit of 8.2 clause, that cannot be done by anybody and everybody unless he is specifically trained to understand the concept of EPR, unless he specifically understand the organization's requirement and processes when he is going for conducting of the internal audit. So it is very important that the auditors used for auditing 8.2 clause understand the concepts of firefighting, understand the concept of potential emergencies, unless they understand all these concepts of safety, unless they understand the communication, important involvement of the operator workers into this EPR, the effective internal audit cannot be done. And unless we do effective internal audit of EPR, the improvement in this process will not be seen, and the whole purpose of implementation will be defeated if we cannot do a effective audit and if we cannot control this process further. So now once we do a good audit of EPR and we have good results, means we have got couple of meaningful non-conformities, meaningful observation with respect to EPR in front of us, and root cause analysis is done, and the corrective actions are planned and are being implemented. Then we go for a effective management review meeting. So now we have got the results, the good, calculated, practical, practically implemented, practically seen from the site, and the feedback is coming from the team of those who are involved into the safety and EPR and the 14,001 8.2 implementation. So then the action plans are developed. These were the weaknesses. These were the the positive points realized by the implementation of the EPR in last 3 months, 6 months, whatever is the time period of implementation, and then the further implementation plan are prepared. Responsibilities are defined, further actions are defined, investment plans are made, new fire extinguisher or better technologically improved fire extinguishers, firefighting system. Further resources are brought into the company. Some team members need to be sent outside for the training. Some resources need to be brought into for the organization for the training. So all these responsibilities and authorities are defined into a well conducted management review meeting, and those minutes are being further tracked and seen what has been implemented with respect to the meeting done, specifically involving the EPR as a factor, as a situation into the organization, because everything needs to be earned. If we lose anything, any property, any human life damaged or lost, is a loss for the organization, it is a loss for the profit of the organization, directly or indirectly. So this needs to be tracked, and ultimately we get into a situation where improvements are being seen by implementation of EPR, Emergency Preparedness and Response System of Clause 8.2, which is common to, and we have studied it together for 14,001 and 45,001 standards. And this is one of the very trusted requirements of the most of the organizations who have implemented 14,001 and 45,000 standards. They have been able to achieve almost immediate benefits, and as I discussed earlier, we have practically seen this being implemented on in the organizations, and benefits are seen straight away, directly. I remember a few of the situations where we have gone to the some of the very large organization who had offices globally, and their views, their behavior have totally changed after the implementation of this particular clause, because this can safeguard the life, property, environment immediately, and they had been convinced that this is one area which is showing the results in the organization. It is not to be shown and demonstrated to anybody. One when walks into the organization, he can see, yes, this is a changed organization now, because they have implemented 8.2 effectively, practically, and they are further tracking it. So this is applicable in a very small office situation also. So let's look at it practically and uh, give and our best to see that the team is trained, they are implementing this sincerely, and we further track it to safeguard the globe as a whole. Thank you very much. I think I have completed this. So now, Apur and team, if you have some questions, we can get into a question answer round.
If any of the participants has any questions, they can now please go on and ask.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah,
Is there any specific people or person is responsible for emergency preparedness?
it is the organizational decision whom they are going to make responsible. See, when we talk of system implementation, I always suggest, and my type of person will always suggest, make a person responsible who understands the concept, who can implement it well, and who can see that it is sincerely being followed into the organization. It can be anybody in the organization.
Any other questions?
Hello, sir. I have a question.
Yeah.
What are the legal requirements for the emergency preparedness plan?
The legal requirement for emergency preparedness plan depends upon organization to organization. We have factory laws there. We have got statutory and regulatory requirements with respect to various products and processes. So whatever requirements are applicable, they need to be followed, and they in principle will be derived from what product is there, what process is there, which state they are working, which country they are working, and on top of that, what are the government regulations there, and what are the requirements of finally the customers. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Any more questions from any of the participants? I guess there are no more questions from any of the participants now, so we can now come to the conclusion of this particular session. I would say I'm glad that we have been benefited by the knowledge shared by Mr. Ajay Bajpai on such a vast and complex terminology, which is also a critical element in the implementation of the standard. I can also say with much confidence that our participants must have enjoyed the context of today's webinar, and it will add value to their expertise and domain of work. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Mr. Ajay Bajpai, on behalf of TNV Academy for giving your valuable time and accepting our invitation to be the guest speaker for today's webinar. I also thank all the participants for taking out time from their schedule and joining us in the webinar today. I hope to see you all again soon. Wish you all best of luck on behalf of TNV Academy for all your future endeavors. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Bye bye.
I request all the participants to please now leave the meeting. Thank you.